A perfect storm is an expression that describes an event where a rare combination of circumstances will aggravate a situation drastically. The term is also used to describe an actual phenomenon that happens to occur in such a confluence, resulting in an event of unusual magnitude. We are generally warned when the possibility of such an occurrence happens with our weather systems, so we can take the necessary action to limit the damage. But even then, the trail of destruction left in the wake of such storms may leave us wondering what just hit, and marvel that anyone is able to survive. Perfect storms, of course, don't just happen in our weather systems. The possibilities of such storms exist in every arena of our lives when a combination of circumstances, which are usually outside of our control, come together, resulting in an event of unusual magnitude. A pandemic is one such moment. As we have witnessed, a combination of events have come together that have been outside of our control. They have combined, and we have been left trying to navigate our way through an ever-increasing raging sea. The terrain we have known so well has changed. The familiar landmarks are lost in the swirl and the torrents of the wind and the rain which now engulf our every day. The thought of the sea of our existence returning to the still, calm waters which we have enjoyed and which, let's face it, many treasured memories have been made upon, are all but vanquished from our minds. And all we can now do is survive one breaker at a time as we are left gasping for air and a release from the endless onslaught of the relentless storm which now engulfs our very beings. And we may wonder how we will survive. It was just over 12 hours ago when Jesus sent his disciples on ahead of him to travel to the other side of Lake Galilee by boat. He bid them a bon voyage as the sun was setting on another day. We aren't told if they were warned of the looming storm. And given the fact that many of them were seasoned fishermen of this lake, I can only assume that they knew the waters well, and they knew how to read the weather. For hours now, they have battled the sea and the winds, and they are exhausted, for every breaker has lifted their vessel and slammed it down into the deep, dark waters. When will it end? How will it end? And where is Jesus now, when they need him the most? Abandoned, they are fighting for their very survival. And then in the early hours of the morning, as the rays of a new day fight to penetrate the heart of this storm, they see a figure coming towards them, walking on the water. And in fear they cry out, thinking they must have passed from life to death, for they assume it is a ghost. And over the raging winds and the vicious seas, they hear a voice. "Take heart," it says. "Do not be afraid. It is I." Jesus calls Peter out onto the water. And in those moments, in those words, Jesus reaffirms his commitment to them while echoing the most spoken command of all: do not be afraid. In the midst of the raging storm, Jesus does not leave his disciples. His longing is for them to find and renew strength in and through his presence with them. Take heart, he says. I wonder how we understand these words. The more I have read of how Jesus used them, the more I have begun to understand that he is saying, may your heart be encouraged. May you know that my promises are true, and may you know that I will never leave nor forsake you, even in the deepest and the darkest storms. I am here with you. Peter needs to test this. Is this really Jesus? And will he really save them? So Peter takes the only option open to him. He steps out of the boat and with his eyes on Jesus begins to walk to him. We are told that when Peter remembers the storm still swirling and raging around him, he begins to sink. Disappearing beneath the dark waters, he does the only thing he can. He cries out to God, "Lord, save me." Words which I am sure many of us have also said in different ways, as the waves of our storms have dragged us down into the darkness threatening to drown us. And in that moment, Jesus reaches out his hand and catches Peter. And Jesus is reaching out through the waters to us. I don't know if you have faced a storm which has been so dark, so vicious, that at times the raging waters have threatened to drag you under. Nor do I know if you have ever heard Jesus speaking such words as we have heard him speak to his disciples today. Words which I believe he says to us all, especially when we find ourselves in the depth and the mist of the storm. Today I want you to know that wherever you may find yourself, that Jesus is speaking these words to you. Take heart. It is I. Do not be afraid. If, like Peter, you have stepped out of the boat and now find yourself drowning in those deep dark waters as you remember the storm swirling around you, may you know that Jesus is reaching out his hand to you through those raging seas, and he is ready to catch you. And may you know the presence of God that stills all storms surrounding you, and may you hear the voice of Jesus calling you out upon the waters, and know that this is the place where grace abounds, and this is the place where God's sovereign hand will be your guide, for this is the place where Jesus is, and this is the place where faith is strengthened.